The Vedic people and their Chalcolithic settlements. So how did the Aryans come? Around the time when Indus Valley civilization ended, new group of people entered Indian subcontinent from the northwest. These people are known as Aryans, and their sacred religious literature was called as Vedas. So this period when the Aryans were ruling is known as the Vedic period, and Aryans have thought to be originated around the area surrounding the Caspian Sea in the Russia, and they were basically pastoralists, that means people who kept cattle, and they speak a language which is believed to be a root of Greek. So these people were basically pastoralists, that means people who kept cattle. They used to speak a language which was believed to be the root language of Greek, Persian, Sanskrit and German language. There were many words which were common between these languages, and when these Aryan people came, they brought along with them the horses and the horse-drawn chariots. And it is also believed that these Aryans introduced the use of iron into India. Hence, their arrival marks the beginning of Iron Age in India, which was a very important milestone. This is a chariot which was driven by horses, and this chariot was used by the Aryan people. What is the evidence for telling all this history about the Aryans? So there is some archaeological evidence for this. These archaeologist people, they identified two types of pottery which is believed to be associated with the Aryan settlers. So these two types of potteries, one is black and one is red, and this was found in the Indo-Gangetic divide as well as the upper Ganga Yamuna Doab. So this Doab means the land between the two rivers. And the second type was the painted grey ware. This was found in the middle and eastern Gangetic plain. So this grey colored ware is typically painted with black or red geometrical pattern. So in this image you see the painted grey ware. Let's learn about a new chapter called Different Ways of Life. Vedic period and Chalcolithic settlements. So livelihood, where did the earlier people live during the Vedic period? The first book of Vedas, known as Rig Veda, it tells us that after crossing the Himalayas, Aryans settled down in a region around Indus and its tributaries. So this region was known as Sapta Sindhu, or the land of seven rivers, and these people, the Aryans, were grouped into tribes, and the cattle was the main source of wealth. The sheep, cow, buffalo, ox, all these things, and they also gave them milk, ghee and meat. So around 1000 BC to 600 BC, these Aryans spread from Saptasindhu region into the Indo-Gangetic plain region. They cleared the forests by cutting and burning, and this land was later used for agriculture purpose, for cultivation and settling down, and they lived in wattle and daub houses. So who ruled them? How were they ruled? So there was a person named Rajan. He was the chief of the tribe, and he was chosen by the people, and he was assisted by the commander-in-chief of the army known as Senani or the Purohit. The Rajan was also advised by two elders known as, it was an assembly of elders, that means many people were there, known as Sabha and Samiti. So from many books we came to know that Kuru and Panchala were the powerful tribes, and these Rajan performed the sacrifices or the pujas like Rajasuya and Aswamedha. They were performed to gain the supremacy over the other chiefs, other rulers. How was the society during that Vedic period? So the people who used to compose the music or the hymns, they described themselves as the Aryas, and their opponents were known as the Dasas or the Dasyus. So people who did not perform sacrifices and spoke different languages were known as Dasas or Dasyus. Later the term Dasa meant slave. So who were slaves? Slaves were those men and women who were captured in the war, and they were treated as the property of the owner, who could make them do any work whatever he wanted. So this Aryan society is also classified on the basis of occupation into four classes. They are Brahmins, which means the priests, Kshatriyas, which means the rulers, Vaishyas, which means the traders, cultivators, as well as skilled workers, and Shudras means people who did menial jobs. But over a period of time, it became difficult for people to move out of their class in which they were classified into. So this caste-based system was not on basis of their profession, but it became like a heredity. And then the Brahmins became the highest position because they conducted all the rituals. Kshatriyas became high because they were acquiring more lands, and then Vaishyas were next to Kshatriyas. They also became wealthy and powerful because of their trading business, and Shudras were the last class next to Vaishyas. This is the Varna based classification. Next, let's see what was the occupation of different Aryan people. So they usually led a simple life, but still the main occupations were cattle rearing as well as the agriculture. So in while practicing agriculture, what crops did they grow? They grew crops like rice, wheat and barley. So other than agriculture, there were other occupations also. So those other occupations are pottery, weaving, carpenter work and chariot making work. So after 1000 BC year, the agriculture became the most important occupation, and year by year the technology was improving and people were having a better lifestyle, and then came other occupations also like leather making and jewelry making. And then through the sea route, that means communication via the sea, the trade was being carried out with distant lands also, other countries via the sea route. So the trading also started with places across the sea. And this is the image of cattle rearing where domestic animals were reared for the purpose of milk, meat, etc. Their worship. The Aryans worshipped the sky, the wind, the rain, fire, and other elements of nature as gods and goddesses. The god of thunder and war was Indra. Other gods worshipped included Surya, the sun god, Varuna, the god of rain, Prithvi, the goddesses of earth, and Agni, the god of fire. Aryans slowly spread across northern India. They started worshipping new gods like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Goddesses like Saraswati and Lakshmi were also worshipped. Here in this image we see the worship of the nature. Let's know about the religious books what the Aryans used to. So let's see about the religious books what Aryans used to follow. So their religious book was Vedas, and these Vedas were written in the Sanskrit language. And there are four Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharva Veda. So these four Vedas consist of 1028 hymns, also known as verses. So all these were written in the Sanskrit language. So apart from these religious books, they also had some other religious books such as Brahmanas, Aryankas, Upanishads, Puranas, and the epic books like Ramayana and Mahabharatas also. So all these books tell us about the life of the Aryan people. So this is a Holy Veda book of the Aryans period, and this is their religious book. Chalcolithic settlements in rest of the India. Around the time the Indus Valley settlements were declining in the northwest, the Aryans started coming into India. The agricultural based life has started in other parts of the country as well. More than 1,000 Neolithic and Chalcolithic sites that flourished between 2000 BC and 500 BC have been discovered in various parts of the country.